Hello, can you hear us? Stream. Wave if you can. I think I didn't fuck anything up.
Hello.
Hello, D3vM. Yes, we got D3vM and we got AE. How are you fellas doing?
You're going to have to capitalize the H and AECoH and the M and D3vM. It's really triggering me. I'm sorry. But other than that, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Thank you for the increasing production values, Elpern. You are appreciated, although I am nitpicky. Clearly.
Yeah, you know, small steps, baby steps, AECoH and D3vM.
Hey, get it!
You know, we're slightly getting a bit better at this, I think, every time we do it. So it's a lot of fun, actually. I'm really enjoying these segments. But yeah,
I watched the last one and it was a really nice discussion.
Which one?
You know, the last podcast you guys did.
Yeah, which discussion are you referring to? The map?
I'm referring like to all the points you guys spoke about.
Okay.
It was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects to this game that you can talk about, you know. So it's not like you're going to ever run out of subjects, if that makes any sense.
Well, given enough time, theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, if we had an infinite amount of time, surely the amount of permutations we can talk about snipers would cease. But I think we just need to raise the toxicity level slightly to make it a little bit sexier. So I'm just going to, at certain points, I will probably do a few mic drops that I've decided in the next hour, but I'm not certain what they will be yet. Do you have any structure to this one, Elpern? Is there any topics you have written down?
We have some questions for D3vM, but I don't think we have... Should we just delve into them?
I have a few questions, but like I don't know if we
I also have a question. Orangepest, what is that whiteboard behind you?
That. Okay, it's a long story, but like basically, I tried getting into Warhammer Total War Online, so that Total War multiplayer stuff. And all my friends decided to get into it too, so we decided, alright, like, we'll have a whiteboard competition. I basically stumped them, like, 30-1. And I was, like, 3 times. So anytime we have an argument, I just post that and then I walk away.
Wait, so that's the brackets behind you?
Well, no. We had, like, basically, it was me, Picky, and Ham, and then some other guys. But we just did 1v1s over and over again for, like, months. Just non-stop, and I would just roll them. I just think it's funny, because they get so... annoyed basically when I post it.
I don't want to used to have a whiteboard. He used to like show how flanking works on it. Maybe you could do code tutorials using the whiteboard.
No way.
Sure. That would actually be kind of sick.
My art is so bad. It'd be like stickman here and then stickman here and stickman shoot there.
You know, it's part of the charm though, isn't it? If you do like, you know, sticky boys.
I can't live up to Shadowwater's reputation. You know, I feel like.
I've got a good topic. Okay, best thing you've ever done in Company Heroes that wasn't on stream, wasn't in a tournament, was just you locked in a death match with one other guy, and only you can tell us the story, and we just have to believe you. What's the best thing you ever did? Or it could be from another game if you can't think of Company Heroes. Something like nobody would ever believe you. I'm
so
sure.
Much of my game time. Actually. I beat Barton on Langress in like 2014 when he opened up with snipers.
Impossible! That's impossible. Not in 2004. I refuse to believe it on Langress because he was his Zis 88 flamethrower method.
It was somewhere in that time period vaguely, and like I'd matched it, and I was like, I must have been like ranked like 300 or something, and we'd like played, and I somehow beat him.
Wow.
And then I got really cocky.
That's a good thing to brag about. I like it.
Well, I got really cocky and I went to the tournament thinking I'd do really well, and then I lost in the first round like 2-0 and I decided, fuck this shit.
And that became a long history of Orangepest beating people in auto match, but not in tournaments. until recently, last 2 years.
It's not finished yet. There's more tournaments. It's not over. There's more chances.
No, I mean Orangepest winning in tournaments is only a recent phenomenon. That's all I mean.
I've only won like 1 tournament though. It's nothing impressive.
Wait, which
one? No, what's the streamer tournament?
Oh, the stream. Okay.
It barely counts.
You know, I'm also a tournament winner now. Who would have known? The first tournament I win is a two Code Dev Invitational Cup.
Yeah, you can put it on your Twitch bio now.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's
you
true.
Twitch straight on there.
Keep it there for 7 years. Actually. It's fine.
So how did it feel to be playing with such a novice player, elpern? I mean, that guy was clearly very limited experience in Company Heroes.
I had
really
to
carried
shout.
him.
I had to shout so much. You guys were asking for interviews and stuff after, but I didn't even have a voice remaining because, you know, I had to do everything. Like, Jason was helpless without me, to be fair.
You just bullied him?
No.
So that's what it sounds like. You're like screamed at him until he started crying.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually think Jason is the only winner in this tournament. He played so well, and I think he carried me every single match.
Yeah. Who would have thought putting a former
I did
top
not
10
know.
2 versus 2 player?
Yeah, I did not know going into the first game that he was Tarnation, actually. I didn't know that. So I was like going into it, oh, it's gonna be, you know, probably gonna lose. It's gonna be amazing fun. You know, so I was just going in like, do whatever you're comfortable with. That's what I said.
You did not, surely. Oh, that's so funny. Well, I'm comfortable like, Goliaths constantly.
And he's like, I can hook it up with you. And I'm like, yes, you can, but do you know about the tech changes throughout the past year? And he's like, what are you referring to? So yeah, I was a bit embarrassed after the first match where someone told me I'm playing with Tarnation. But
wait, didn't he tell you?
No, he didn't tell me.
Were you like in text or like voice chat?
No, voice chat. We were like discussing strats before, and I was like, you know, let's just have fun, you know, do whatever you're comfortable with, and it worked out quite well. So I was. They must
have told that guy to go easy in the third game as well, because he floated 1,000 manpower, 300 fuel. So I was like, yeah.
I think he was like figuring out what he should build, if it was Sturm Tiger or King Tiger. He was going for some of the heavy late stuff.
I say one thing as well, like that Sturm Panther dude, people like to meme on him, but he's actually pretty good at the game. All that 4v4, I can't believe playing 4v4s constantly against like children or crushing old people or whatever it is you do in a 4v4.
Boomers, 80-year-old boomers that came back after, you know, CoH1, kick out kills essentially.
The first game in CoH2. How does that prepare you to be good at the game? My entire mind is blown. I don't get it personally.
Well, it's not exclusive 4v4 player, I don't think. I think he because I've run into him in 1v1 auto match before, and I think he's played 2v2. So I mean, how hard could it possibly be?
Can we pull his player card and analyze what game modes he plays?
Hold up on stream, elpern. Go on. Let's tear him apart. You know, look at his win rates, everything.
D3vM's gonna have so much fun smurfing when he's at Relic. He's always had fun smurfing anyway, but there'll be an added reason to be smurfing. It's, oh, guys, yeah, sorry, I don't really want to play as D3vM because, you know, conflict.
Developer, you know.
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest, exactly.
So I just gave myself my 10th full DLC account of the month, you know.
Just going to get a smurf and start playing in tournaments again. Just under a different name now.
D3vM, when are you going to continue your Road to Rank 1 stream? I'm patiently waiting.
Soon. That's all I can say. I still need to get that rank 1. It was quite unfortunate that when I played, Kimbo didn't snipe me, and I was expecting that.
There's a lot of players waiting for you right now, though. I can tell you that I've got some birds whispering in my ears.
Oh, okay. Can you reveal some of those, or is it Paolo again, through the whole night?
One is present here actually. If you can figure out who it is, if it's AE or Orangepest.
Well, AE already did snipe.
Wait,
yeah, I did.
Yeah, he did.
I
told him to go snipe him because I couldn't do it because I was busy with.
Because I played against a theoretical rank 4000, I deranked myself by 400 ranks for losing to D3vM twice. I went from like 500 to 900 as Wehrmacht or something.
He did well in the games, though. I was impressed with that.
I played my ass off for the whole 8 minutes I was in that game. You know, you got the full AE experience.
Didn't you do like ask runs on the CoH or something?
Struck, yeah.
Yeah, not very smart. Gotta say.
Take people by surprise, and then the trick is you put a Talamine on your base entrance because they think they can just rush you. I didn't quite have enough munitions for it. It was meant to be a grand strategy. I've lull him, but never mind. It didn't work. I don't want to become the Nubius Nath of the podcast where I have all these stories of what I did in auto match that day. Well, guys, I did have this one game at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, it's good storytelling though, if you can,
It is.
apply yourself.
Very charismatic guy.
So are you?
All right, Kevin. I gotta ask you.
Let's go.
Okay, so when we looked at like the Wehrmacht reveal, right, when the faction was there, I noticed like the field marshal stuff. So I want to know like what the core idea behind like the design to adding basically micro commanders into the faction. It's a really interesting idea, right?
Yeah, I think that the whole idea of the new factions of Company of Heroes 3 is really just to add depth to them, so they aren't as linear as Company of Heroes 2, and they are closer to Company of Heroes 1. The whole idea is that you would have these like deep choices in the game that every choice you make is impactful, and you really need to think about what you're going to do. And also, the factions are supposed to be kind of self-sufficient, without the need of commanders to kind of counter anything. That's one of the points that was kind of driven home since day one, I think.
I think we all got traumatized.
Yeah, so no more like missing flamethrowers in factions or whatever it is. The idea really is, yeah, the idea really is that every faction has every tool they need, and the doctrines or battle groups are just something on top of that. So yeah, those side techs, US has something kind of similar. They also have now side techs. Again, the idea is that you need to make more meaningful choices. If you, for example, want to focus in the early game or in the late game, you would go for different choices. Overall, just add more depth decision making to the game compared to Company of Heroes 2.
Sounds good.
That's a good answer. Because one thing obviously CoH2, and we can probably this has already been discussed to death already in sort of beginning of just in CoH3, but like choices in CoH2 are very limited, right? And they're either like specifically like sometimes it's like if you want to get another side tech, you can completely cripple yourself, especially if you want to get like, let's say like you're playing USF, right? Lieutenant and captain is pretty brutal decision to make, right? And you delay yourself and you cripple yourself pretty significantly. The one that's like because I saw it was like 2A and 2B, which means you can both obviously go for like two different tech paths. Is it gonna be like way more easier to back tech with say Wehrmacht to USF to these basically other tiers in the same like line, right?
Orangepest, you have to give yourself.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's been a big post on the Wehrmacht recently, so we're allowed to talk about it. But there's been a big, there's a thing you have to get your head around. Okay, is that as a player, you need to be punished for making incorrect decisions.
No.
Okay? You don't just have an entire small. It's not a buffet. If you don't like the prawns, you can't just go up and get a chicken drumstick. You're stuck with your prawns. You chose badly, and you have to eat all of your prawns and make your prawns fight off the USF or whatever. But seriously...
The issue, I think, is what Orangepest is referring to here, is that it feels like an all-in move if you have to choose between one path or the other if the backtaking is too punishing. Like, that's the issue.
Right. And that's where D3vM and I are gonna have differing opinions and ways of thinking than you guys, because we fondly remember the CoH1 style of if you haven't done your reconnaissance correctly, if you haven't strategically understood your opponent correctly, you're gonna fuck up.
You're going to get fucked if you don't have the counter for the M8, for example.
Exactly. So you need to have done the correct reconnaissance, which is what Company of Heroes 2 has lacked from day one. You need to have understood the situation, the fuel, and in Company of Heroes 1 that was easier to do because of the strategic point system. So if they didn't have fuel, they did not have fuel. If they didn't have munitions, they did not have munitions. It's more brutal, but it's more strategically pleasing, in my opinion, at least. So the whole idea that if you didn't go for an AT gun, you're not going to be able to backtech and get an AT gun super easily. It's going to be harder. And that's to reward strategic thinking and to reward reconnaissance.
Yeah, but my issue with this, right, and like, I think a good example would be like Soviets in CoH2, right? But if you go for sniper opening, you do really well. And you want to like use that advantage and go to like a T70. Then as you get into like the mid to late game, right, where P4 start rolling out, it can be sometimes, I find, incredibly difficult to find the space and the resources to even get like an AT gun without a commander. And like, I feel like if you get into the super like mid to late game where manpower is super important, I feel like at least the option to go back and like obviously sacrifice a decent amount of fuel to get, say, an AT gun, would like just it should be more accessible in my opinion, because like factions like USF especially will struggle really badly with AT guns if you fall behind, right? Like you can't like I feel like it can't be that you plan around like players playing optimally, and like if you make a strategical error, it shouldn't be like game ending.
Where's USF's non-doctrinal mines though? Orangepest, where are they? They were missing from coming here.
They're called RE Light AT mines. Okay,
No,
they're called 2 commanders out of 9.
I think it's always hard compare Company of Heroes 2 to Company of Heroes 3 or Company of Heroes 1. You can't really make the same kind of assumptions. Just the way the resources work is entirely different, and even the cost of the buildings. So on more of a Company of Heroes 1 perspective, the fact that you would do the T70 rush, for example, meant that you would probably have an advantage coming into the mid game that your opponent doesn't. And it was on you to then think if you wanted to backtech to get the counter out for the eventual Panzer IV, like you mentioned, or if you want to go all in and think you can hold on a bit longer and just go for the tank depot, for example. So these are the kind of meaningful choices that AE mentioned, where you can't have everything, and you really need to make a judgment if you think you're going to be successful if you backtech or not. They are supposed, again, it's hard to compare Company of Heroes to Company of Heroes 1 or Company of Heroes 3. I just can't make the same comparisons because the resources are entirely different. I do think, I agree with AE that your choices should be punished if you do the wrong choice. And I do think that even though they maybe shouldn't be game ending, but they definitely should put you on the back foot by a lot. And in Company of Heroes 2, there really isn't that. For most time in the game's history, like especially in competitive matches, it was really hard to close down the game. It was really like meta dependent if something was really broken and your opponent got tank out. But as far as I can remember, like if you did a mistake in Company of Heroes 1, it was really punishing. It wasn't game ending though, so that's kind of the thing that I think Company of Heroes 3 should strive for. The decisions that you make should be really thoughtful and just not, you shouldn't follow a recipe. You should be trying to play around your opponent.
Yeah, and that's why reconnaissance, I just keep using that word over and over again, because CoH2 lacked the ability to find out what your opponent's building. You can't do it in CoH2. You can look what buildings they have, and you used to be able to do that bug where you look in the fog of war and you can see, remember the Soviet indent, if it was tier 1. That was actually really helpful, and as a caster, I loved and a tournament organizer especially, I loved the fact that was in the game, because that meant my Wehrmacht player could understand where the Soviet player might be going. Okay, it was cheap, and they hadn't had to push up like a little BMW bike to have a little look. But it's same as StarCraft, Overseer, straight over the base to see what the Zerg player's doing. That's the first thing they do. They want to get reconnaissance, and Company Heroes 2 missed out on all of that. And that's why you can punish the players more.
I think the comparison with StarCraft and like games such as Age of Empires and Company Heroes is kind of poor. Because in Age of Empires and StarCraft, you have this rock, paper, scissors balance thing going on. And you don't really have that in Company of Heroes, which means that inherently, scouting isn't going to be as important early because the opponent's build isn't going to matter as much. It's not that rock, paper, scissors. If he goes cavalry, you don't need spears, I can't think of a StarCraft. I'm just going to make
like the comparison in Company of Heroes 1 on how it worked. So, for example, if I was playing Wehrmacht against USF and I did a sniper, and if I scouted my opponent's base and I saw a weapon support center, which would have the sniper for USF, I would know that he was going to try to counter-snipe me. So what I would do is I would maybe skip tier 2, which had like the usual grenadiers and pack guns, and I would go straight up to tier 3, which had a Puma. And then my opponent would have the sniper in the next few minutes, but he would be ill prepared in the next few minutes for when the Puma came out. So it's all about the choice of, in that sense, I'm kind of countering my opponent because he's on a clock as soon as I see that he's going for the weapon support center. If I went for tier 2, for example, my opponent wouldn't have any like light vehicle to counter, so you wouldn't be preoccupied with that. But as soon as I see his structure that he went for, I can straight up go to tier 3 and just counter the sniper because there's nothing he can do. that's the kind of thing that happened in Company of Heroes 1, which I think it was really fun.
Yeah, and that's why, elpern, you're saying that Company of Heroes 2 doesn't have the rock paper scissors dynamic, and rock paper scissors dynamic makes it sound bad, but it does. If there are clear counters.
I think rock paper scissors is some of the best systems to implement because they're easy to understand. Okay. They allow sway room. Like, it's fundamentally easy, but it allows you to like build and do stuff upon.
Definitely, and Company of Heroes 2 lacked that from the get-go. There was something called target tables that Company of Heroes 2 entirely did not have. They re-implemented it in 2014, I want to say, which is where a unit can have a different effect on a different unit. And okay, it sounds a bit tricky, but the whole point in that is so you have actual counters in the game that everyone understands. And yeah, you're right, Company of Heroes 2 lacks this because every tier structure, for Soviets example, has a piece of anti-tank, a piece of anti-infantry in it. There's not a clear tier. Oh, this tier is clearly a very anti-infantry focused tier. This tier is clearly a very anti-tank focused tier. So it leaves the option to strategically counter your opponents or to reconnaissance them, or whatever the word is, and counter them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like everyone has access to everything in Company of Heroes 2. It's a little bit strategically kind of boring in a sense, I think. And the biggest point of this, I will shut up in a second, but the biggest point in this is look at our end game states, like Isildur in his prime versus Nagano in his prime last year with the Noah's Ark support weapon meta on open maps. Everyone has everything. Everyone has anti-infantry. Everyone has anti-tank. Everyone has tanks. It's kind of cool from a micro mechanics. It's kind of cool to see how they use them, but strategically it's boring.
I think it's a different skill set. Yeah, maybe from a spectator, but I think it's a different skill set. I feel like CoH2 build or CoH in general, the build should not be what is decisive. Like it can give you small advantages on the field when it comes to technical decisions, but in the end, it's always going to be your positioning and your tactical thinking that's going to make you win, right? It's not going to be the fact that you built this one unit that he can't seem to do anything about. And now I'm referring entirely to the sniper, where it just forces your opponent into a slippery slope kind of deal.
I think you can have both. I think you can have both strategic thinking of your builds and just play well enough with builds.
You do it to some degree, right? Yeah, definitely. And I think the issue is like when you have options that are, I don't know how to express my thoughts here.
I love the airborne AT gun drop in Company of Heroes because it's usually more manpower than to get an AT gun the proper way. It's usually more punishing. I don't want to keep putting you guys off by saying CoH 1, but in CoH 1, the forward headquarters, you could get an anti-tank gun from that, but it costs a shit ton of manpower, and the build time was horrific. But it was possible. So it's not like a hard rock, paper, scissors. It's like a nuanced rock, paper, scissors. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think it's also important to mention that the damage of the vehicles in Company of Heroes 1, I think it was less. So even if you were out-countered in the field, it didn't feel as bad as it was like with the D70 before it was nerfed, where it just wiped squads left and right and center.
I mean, it still does. Once you get back 3.
Well, it isn't as bad as it was before. But for example, the Puma from Wehrmacht, it did nice damage, but it didn't like wipe squads everywhere, if you know what I mean. So as USF, you had time to backtech without getting overly punished. So I think that's something that is missing from Company of Heroes 2 in that sense, is a bit of the timings of the things. It feels like they aren't really well spaced out enough, where you have like the infantry game, then you have the light vehicle game like straight up, and you don't have time to kind of even think about it. You just have to have the builds already mechanized. Otherwise, the light vehicle will just fuck you up. In Company of Heroes 1, because I think you had like defined stages where it was like infantry play, and then you could start expecting some light vehicle play. It gave you time to think of what your opponent was doing and kind of react to that. So in that sense, it wasn't as punishing as it is in Company of Heroes 2, where light vehicles have always dominated the 1v1 play. All the games have always been a kind of a catch-up game, try and counter light vehicles, either that be the Flame Half Track from Wehrmacht when it was meta, or the 222 or the Panzer II from OKW, it always has been a game of countering the first light vehicle out. And in Company of Heroes 1, it wasn't that way, and I think it was more pleasant.
There's a point in chat from Roll on the Floor Laughing My Ass Off 113 that's on about snares. CoH2 snare system is very punishing. And the reason it's very punishing is because it had to be. They actually balanced it over the years. It was originally quite weak, to be honest, other than maybe the Fans of Faust. But they buffed everything. They buffed the range. They buffed the stickiness. It wasn't always 100% sticky. Now in CoH2, we're accustomed to snares having the ability to follow a vehicle throughout the map forever. You know, theoretically, if it had a vehicle moving at 200 miles per hour, the snare would just follow it, right? It'd be so funny. And we need to test that out one day. But it's actually a crutch. And the reason it's a crutch is because the light tanks were so fucking oppressive in CoH2. They were the T70 was a nightmare for Wehrmacht players for years. You probably, if you close your eyes, you can hear the drum beat of the T70 mopping up your grenadier on retreat. Just close your eyes; it's there. It's there's deep PTSD from that. And what I'm going to change the topic a slight bit, guys. Is how refreshing this is, because we're actually, as a community, we're going into the next game with optimism. I cannot describe to you, as a CoH1 veteran, going into CoH2, the pessimism and the awful feeling of knowing that the next game was going to miss so many great features from the balance, the design, the units, the teching, everything. And so many people were like, what the is this? You know,
I remember it was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare. We lost so many good people, D3vM. We lost like 70% of the most intelligent, charismatic, funny, best players, best casters, best organizers. It was like a massacre. It was horrendous.
I remember I returned my Company of Heroes 2 at launch.
It's like that meme where the guy comes home on Community with the pizzas and everything's on fire.
Wait, D3vM, did you actually return the game?
Yeah, I did.
That's hilarious. And now you're working at the company.
When Company of Heroes 2 came out, in my defense, it was a very bad game.
Oh yeah.
I don't blame them. I don't blame them because
that's actually hilarious, though. I'm sorry.
I gave Pepsi, who you might know is that French dude that may or may not. I won't say what he does off stream. But anyway, he won a CoH1 tournament on the eve of CoH2. I gave him collector's edition. He never actually redeemed the code. It's so funny. But we did lose a lot of people. But the positive thing is, everyone's on board. There's a few CoH1 elitists on there, you know, that are saying some bad stuff about CoH2. I don't understand them. Most CoH1 guys, most CoH2 guys, like CoH3 actually is like glistening optimism. What the hell's going on? Is there anybody that's saying having a bad word to say about what they've seen so far?
I've seen some on Reddit, but it's mostly, you know,
many people mad.
It's just
Really?
Cartoony graphics. Everyone keeps saying that, and I totally disagree. I actually think the game looks phenomenal, and I'm happy to finally see some color in my Company of Heroes game. Because both VCO and CoH2 are actually kind of brown, in my opinion.
I don't know about CoH2. CoH2 is kind of green. A lot of the maps are just green. And
I mean,
green.
it's because the green
weird.
maps are the popping ones, you know, that's why they're all in the
Good
game.
reason.
Yeah, you know, imagine playing different versions of, I'm sorry, Capen, but AECoH, you know, it's very brown. And the same, even the winter maps look brown, in my opinion.
Yeah, what happened to them?
Yeah.
As soon as the snow gets removed, it just becomes a big shit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like we had that Scorched Earth tournament. Remember, it looked so pretty in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, and there's some, like, the craters become like oil pumps. It's
Yes.
they're very strange, very strange.
Winter maps were like practically unplayable for me. Like I went from like 200 FPS to like 15, so I literally couldn't play the Scorched Earth tournament. I had to
Nagano
drop
played
out.
it like XCOM 2, I think, or something he was saying. But
It just wasn't playable. It's like the performance drop is absurd.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
something else as well with all the co-titles. Like every time a Company of Heroes comes out, no computer can handle the graphics of the game. Do
Literally.
you remember how many years it took, like, for Company of Heroes 1 for people to be able to play it at the highest setting?
Honestly, my first PC, I built it to play Company of Heroes and Supreme Commander in 2007. It had 512 megabytes of RAM. Rip me. I only used it for porn after that. It's like-
I don't mind it though, because I feel like games should, in general, if they want to be future-proof, they should launch with settings that current systems shouldn't be able to play. And then you can
Yeah,
go
but-
like Yeah.
It's not like the graphics are next gen. It's just bad optimization. It's not
Oh yeah, in this case, yes. But I mean, in general, I mean, I'm looking at Crysis and all those games. You know, they were launching with settings that were for the generation after, pretty much. They were just waiting for the hardware to catch up, essentially.
Well, the best is something like Grand Theft Auto 5 that has an incredible scaling. It's been on, like PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and now 5.
I'm pretty sure that has had some graphics update throughout the years, hasn't it? Though it's not been.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I'm not entirely sure, but
I think it's somewhere in between though. Company Heroes is both badly optimized and incredibly ambitious in what it does because it's a first-person shooter emulation, isn't it? A real-time strategy game. It's just insanity. But yeah. What other topics have we got, elpern?
Do you have any more questions, Orangepest?
Sure, I can ask something. Right.
You have like a big list of questions. Just...
I sat down with my friend, right? I was like, I got Devon on. What do you want to ask him? We started talking. The one thing, right, that I find really interesting is like the perceived balance issue. Because us were like, except AE, who's like a Casper of knowledge. We're like top players, right? We understand the game and like how it works. But then you get like, top 100, top 200, and those guys, right? And they have like, they can see something, right? Like, let's say blobbing, right? A lot of people think blobbing is like low skill, low effort. When, it's like lazy. And a lot of people can find that to be like problematic. But for us, right, blobbing is like, it's not really an issue anymore. Like, you just deal with it. So I'm like, I want to ask, right, like perceived balance, like how do you tackle that for the lower players? Like how do you like help them understand the game better by design wise, right? Because if it gets to the point where like someone blobs up and then they lose, right? And then they understand the MG's like working and they it gets overrun, right? Because they used to be a problem. So like trying to tackle those sorts of issues, like it's probably really hard, but I want to understand like your process in doing that and dealing with those like lower level issues.
I think part of it is about the kind of how difficult the tools that you give the players are initially. I think that to counter blobbing, the MG is probably something really easy to use. So that's why I can never understood the blobbing kind of thing. I think it comes down to when you have those abilities that just increase the accuracy or the damage of the units, then you have a big blob that can kill the MG before it even starts firing. Either way, that's kind of a tough topic just in general, because that topic has been in forever in League of Legends, for example. Just things that are kind of learn to play issues. But I do think that
can you give an example of League of Legends learn to play issue?
Yeah, so basically every time a new champion comes out, for example, you have the kind of high tier players that can like easily adapt and see what the champion struggles at. And then you have the players that take months and months before figuring out that champion has a clear weakness. It's basically at every champion launch. So basically, I have tons of examples of any champion that comes out. For example, I have one example from the Company of Heroes franchise, actually. So Panzer Elite, when it came out, was kind of uncounterable by many people, because he would just blob up and rush the scout car. And it wasn't until Aimstrong figured out that you could just blob up your rifleman with BARs and there was nothing Panzer Elite could do, that everyone started actually stomping on Panzer Elite, and then Panzer Elite was unplayable.
It was insane.
Classic, I lose, it's unplayable.
Just research or Google Bulletproof Strat, Aimstrong, and it'll come up on game replays. It was literally one of the biggest effects on meta ever. It was after patch 2.602, and Panzer Elite were, when I got into the game in about 2010, Panzer Elite were, because that's when my PC could finally play it, Panzer Elite were just uncounterable. It was like the boogeyman. You got Wehrmacht and Automat, you're like, oh, phew. Then this strat came along, which was basically blob, bro. But it wasn't just
Yeah,
that. It was
just
the timing. It was the timing of flamethrowers, sticky bombs. You had to prioritize munitions, disregard fuel, and obviously bars was another option, as D3vM says. But basically, gain critical mass, protect your flamethrowers, and pick on individual Panzer Grenadiers. And it sounds like we're so passionate about it because honestly, it was like the death of a faction because there was no more balance patches. You've never seen Panzer Elite in a tournament ever since because, quite frankly, the skill level isn't there in a lot of these tournaments. You just don't see them. But yeah, but it's amazing. And to your guys' point, Alpern, that you brought up in my chat the other day, I was very moody, by the way. I do apologize for my bad mood.
It's
but
okay, dude.
It was as how much does balance affect the top level? And how does it cascade downwards? And from a D3vM perspective, it's more from a design perspective. And I think from a D3vM perspective, if I may, D3vM, like you could design an MG so it counters blobs every single time. But a good player can just see the MG and start flanking. So then it's like, how do you play around that? It's like Tekken or a fighting game. Everyone can block even if you get into the game for the first time. It's just obvious. But then there's layers of complexity that you add to that. And I think the very first level should be available to a whole kind of player pool. And it should be obvious kind of thing. I think Company Heroes does a really good job of that now. But my point on balance is I think it affects everybody, and I think it just affects everybody to a different extent. So, for example, that Bulletproof Strat that affected me when I first started playing Auto Match. I was able to beat Panzer Elite players, and I'm talking level 4. You know, I was able to copy what the best player in the world was doing and apply it to my own game. And to this day, it kind of holds true that although it doesn't affect you as much, it certainly does cascade downwards and it trickles for what the big boys do. And that's why my YouTube videos with the best players in the world always get the most views. And it's not just because it's fancy to watch. People take notes and they apply it to their own game.
That's another thing. Just to go off that. Company of Heroes, I think, always kind of failed on giving tutorials or overall just explaining things to players.
For sure.
Yeah, so
I
think
you guys should just link Tightrope's 2016 videos at this point in the main menus or something, because I feel like those videos are like fundamental to even begin playing if you're trying to play somewhat competitively, at least. If you're expecting wins, like you kind of need that knowledge because they are explaining mechanics which the game itself doesn't explain, and I don't know, I felt like, you know, at this point, maybe, or something along those lines.
Hopefully, it should be equipped with this, right? Like, it should be equipped to help players get into it. And we have some notion of those tools, for example, the pausing system, whatever it was for the campaign. But I feel like there needs to be a robust, like, more focused on, like, how fundamentally you should, like, approach the game and, like, how the core mechanics work. So I feel like I remember OKW and USF had those like tutorials on the release. I don't know if you guys remember, but they were really, really bad. They just said wrong. This unit does this, and I was like, okay, but how do I use it?
I think it's also like a shot of heroin, though, isn't it? When you watch one of those tightrope. If I was a new player watching tightrope tricks or tips or tricks, even if they're out of date, you get this awakening as to how deep and complex the game is. And then you're aware of these small little tricks and tips, and you seek them out, you watch your own replays, you watch players' streams. And I think CoH has to have that complexity, and it's not the worst thing in the world that some of it's hidden, because it kind of traps people. It gives them an addiction. They love the fact that they're going to find something out. And although I don't want everything spelled out, basically, is what I'm saying. I do like some hidden complexity.
Yeah, I think that's when he mentioned that you should have like a tier 1 kind of thing that everyone should have access to. Again, to go back to the main points, to counter, for example, blobbing. I think that should be there, and I think it's just that in Company of Heroes, many of the information is hidden. So you don't have the right tools to kind of learn yourself the things that you need for a higher level kind of play, which is where Tightrope comes in. And Tightrope, even though he's big in the community, many of the players in the game still probably don't know about him, so they don't know how to counter things or how to play around something. So it's something that's really lacking in the Company of Heroes franchise. Just the overall learning curve is already big enough in the franchise, and then there's the lack of resources to help out newer players. So,
speaking of the cat, what's its name?
Oh, there was a cat.
Yeah, it's up on your TV, man.
The cat is a Portuguese name, Chumbinho. You probably don't know what that means, but
can you spell it out?
Give me a second. Oh, I can. Okay, don't crucify me for this, but I don't have a follow on your channel, but now I do.
Oh, sad.
Yikes.
Oh!
Oh wait, I have 10 minutes before I can write in chat, not like this.
God damn.
Okay,
Just say it, D3vM.
like this. Chumbinho.
Sean Bean, the cat, the actor.
He's gonna die during this podcast.
He already butchers my name.
J-Wow. It's just J-Wow. It's not hard.
Yeah, it's JWoww.
Your surname begins
it's
with
a-
an M, doesn't it, D3vM?
It does, yeah.
I don't want to dox you completely, but, right, guys, get this. Nobody's ever truly known what D3vM stands for. It's been years. You've had casters like Ami Politsai saying that stands for damn evil vicious mouse, which is quite frankly really cringeworthy. So now finally, after a million years of being in the community, we now know what it means. It's developer M.
Or man.
D3vM.
Developer man.
But your surname is M, isn't it? So D3vM. We finally know. There we go. Origin story complete. Love it.
I remember that account that Ami just kept on using that name when I just smashed together random words to create a Smurf account. For the rest of the time, he always thought that D3vM meant that.
Oh no. Sean being the cat though, eh? That's cool.
Yeah. Sean Bean.
Oh, he's outside now.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
How is it so light? I don't understand. What time zone are you in? Are you not in Portugal?
Yeah, I'm in Portugal. So it's
Green screen.
It's green screen, yeah.
you have a lot of daytime here.
Patronize Elpern. Hang on a second. Wait right there. Right, Elpern. Can you see this helmet?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the Earth, right? The Earth is tilted. Okay. You are here, right? D3vM is here. So
where am I?
The sun is up there. So D3vM gets more sun than you do.
All right. That's enough. Okay, I understand. God damn it. Now I feel stupid.
As you're the best geoguesser in the community, I assumed you had amazing geography knowledge.
I'm probably the only geoguesser in the community to begin with. But you know, it's fun.
God, K-Pen's still awake. It's 4 o'clock in the morning where he is. That's just... Come on, K-Pen. Get it together, mate.
Well, wait, it has to be a Friday for him, right? Well, now it's Saturday, but
Who knows?
All right,
Friday,
let's switch up topics. How about some tournament talk? D3vM, you won a couple tournaments.
Yeah, I did. That is a fact.
So, which one are you the most proud of? Can you remember any specific events that happened during them?
I think so in terms of company viewers too, I would say Charlie Fox.
Fox.
Yeah, so Operation Charlie Fox, where I think I got beaten by Paula in the first few rounds and got to the losers bracket.
What year was this? This is
this was super long ago. That's the first tournament I ever played.
2015.
Yeah, 2015.
So that's before GCS even.
Yep.
GCS, yeah, it was before GCS, I think.
Yeah.
GCS was a year or two after. Yeah. So basically, it was a point where no one played US for some reason. In tournaments, it would always be Soviets, and I just kind of picked USF up. And then I started using this commander that you could call in a vet one rifleman.
Oh no, I remember.
Oh god.
And then you could upgrade flamethrowers. And it was really broken. And then eventually a bunch of people started complaining to Ami to ban the commander just right before the tournament, and I got really salty about that. Because it was the commander that every top player knew I used, and none of them did. Or at least only a few did. And just like a day or two before the tournament, it got banned, and I had to just change up my strategy. And it was just, in the end, really satisfying to kind of beat the players that said that I could only win because of that one commander. So it was like a karma kind of thing. It felt really good. As for Company of Heroes 1, I think obviously I would go with SNF4, where every game felt really competitive, and it was like at the top level in Company of Heroes 1. By the end of the game, everyone was so well matched. Like you didn't have one single player like Azilor is right now, just above everyone. So it was all competitive games, and just the games themselves were really epic. And I just remember the feeling when, by the end of like game 5 against Aliage, I think it was, where I ended up winning the whole thing. I just felt so relieved because it was so hard to get to that last match against him. And just him saying that GG moment, it's something that I always fondly remember from back then. But yeah, I think for Company of Heroes 2, since you guys are more used to that, Operation Charlie Fox is probably the best. Mostly because I like when people try to counteract me. And then I feel like a lot of satisfaction just proving them wrong.
Yeah, that tournament had the most drama out of any tournament ever, and it's more than pretty much all the 1v1 tournaments that ever followed it combined, to be honest.
I don't even recall this tournament. Like, what was the drama except for the right?
I'll give you a summary.
Oh,
so
God.
the
Historian.
So obviously the player pool was quite weak at this point, 2015-ish time, bit of an ebb, massive ebb for the community.
Yeah, 1 year really. After a shitty launch, it's
2 years. The launch was bad, but then the additional factions that came in late 2014 were very bad for competitive because they'd stripped too much out. So it was really weak period, really weak. And then obviously a big cash prize pool came around, so Cash M dusted off his CoH2 copy. No, bought Company Heroes 2, sorry. Bought Company Heroes 2. 3 years after Sunday Night Season 4, which was the biggest CoH1 tournament by far, literally by far. And big prize pool generation from the community. So it's the first crowdfunded event. Operation Charlie Fox crowdfunded. So D3vM and AECoH come back in auto match, and all the CoH2 players that are the cabal of the competitive scene at the time are obviously seeing them as enemy number one. And it's with every right mind, because D3vM, of course, is now rank 1 USF, and it's not even close, and like destroying everybody with Rifle Company or whatever the hell it's called, with the flamethrowers on the riflemen, not rear echelons, riflemen at the time. And it was a terrible commander that should have been banned, but it shouldn't have been banned 2 weeks before the tournament. It got banned 2 weeks before the tournament, which in my opinion is obviously a little bit cutting it too fine. And obviously a lot of players were giving feedback that weren't D3vM or AECoH, the two players that were practicing with that commander. So that was the drama there that D3vM alluded to, and that's quite interesting. And then you got drama that I won't bring up because it's only a conspiracy theory that D3vM took a dive to go down to the lower brackets on purpose so he could end up with AECoH in the grand final deliberately, because they were that confident, cocky, and arrogant about their own ability relative to the rest of the player pool. But D3vM would never confirm or deny, and if he denied, I'd still kind of believe the conspiracy theory. So
that's pretty funny, though.
But it's a pretty funny one, yeah. It's a lot of people kind of. It's
because the two most hated players at that time just got up to the final.
Basically, yeah, basically. But it was a really cool tournament, and there was a lot of drama.
This is why you're so scared.
As well.
This is why you're so scared with the double elimination because of this tournament.
It's one of the reasons, yeah, because of that conspiracy theory, but also because Kimbo would legit want to drop down, and he did want to drop down. He admitted it. Do you know when you were drunk and you fell over? Kimbo was admitting
where was that?
To drop down. You can't remember because your brain cells got deleted.
Yeah,
got bug splatted. But Kimbo was admitting that he was tempted to drop down due to the structure at the time.
I wouldn't admit anything under pressure, though. Come on. The way I was screaming at him, he would have folded.
Just like, what was that admin for Master League that went in a room with Kimbo and Sturm Tiger Gaddafi? That was it.
Now I remember also a really fun moment. It was on I think GCS won. I think you can correct me, but it was against Von Ivan, and I bug splatted.
Oh,
yeah, and I was US, and he had nothing in his space. He had like maybe 10 pop cap, and I had like, I don't know, 70 pop cap. The game was basically over when I bug splatted already. And Von Ivan and a bunch of people argued that the game wasn't over. And that I bug splatted on purpose, even though I was like going to win in the next, 1 or 2 minutes.
Literally,
yeah. And there was a big drama because of that. And I remember like being really, really pissed when the bug splat happened, and everyone started saying that I did it on purpose and that Von Ivan should win the game, and like just basically crucifying me for having a bug splat. Yeah. And then in the next game, basically, I think it was he was refereeing the tournament then. The decision was to replay the game in the same map and same factions, but he got the win. Actually, no, he didn't have a say in the factions. I would say I would have a say in the faction. And I remember being really pissed, and I was like, okay, I'm going to play the game again. I'm going to choose the goddamn same faction. I'm going to beat him up again. And I was playing that game with such a drive. And when I won, I felt like so accomplished against Von Ivan. Like I felt like I beat him in like 4-1 fashion instead of or was it 3-1? Was it a best of 3 or best of 5?
Yeah,
I think it was best of 5.
It was a best of 5 every series of that. And to your credit, Dev, I'm not going to fillet you completely, but one of the reasons you've won so many tournaments is your ability to not get tilted after you've taken a loss. And now that loss was, and that's the psychological profile of somebody like yourself, quite a socially reserved fellow. They've tended to be the best in tournaments, and all the guys that can be kind of chill. Like, I'd be shit at competitive company heroes. I've dabbled enough in automatch to definitely know I'd be terrible. I'm too hot-headed, and the ability to, in that situation, D3vM, it was very unjust what happened. The rules did not give you the backing, but to be fair, you had a terrible PC. It did kind of explode randomly, but you were literally given a loss when you had a full army, 4 tanks, including a bulldozer Sherman veteran C3. You were against somebody that had a Panzer IV that was basically 1 pixel of health and a single Panzer Fusilier squad. You know what I mean? You were given a loss. To then pick the same factions again and to somehow manage to not want to kill everybody and yourself in a blaze of glory and to win is a credit to you, because I don't think many other people could handle that level of bullshit, to be fair. It was pretty difficult. And then that brings me on to Orangepest and elpern. What do you guys think? Do you guys think there's like a psychological profile of people that can actually handle this game at the highest level?
I mean, I'm basically the opposite, so I kind of have to sit here and defend myself, right? I think, right? Tilt and like staying cool are kind of different things, right? Because tilt is something you let yourself happen to. It happens like, for me, right? A lot of people think I get really mad a lot, but usually it's just me like venting. So I like vent on stream a lot, and I just like turn off that filter. I just start talking, right? And I don't care about what anyone else thinks. I just keep talking to myself, and I keep saying things, and then like it just spirals, and I get more and more angry. But in a tournament, I don't really speak at all. So for in tournaments, I don't tilt ever, like at all.
Yeah, same. In tournaments, when I'm not on the camera and when I'm not trying to use some of my brain cells to communicate what I'm doing, it's way easier to actually just focus on the game and on what matters. Like you may notice something that's like, oh, I got really unlucky, or man, that's unfortunate, but you don't really fire yourself up above it, because you're playing the game. And also I feel like all the top players, at least the top even 30, I would say, they've all played in so many tournaments that there is no nerves anymore. I feel that way, like there's no nerves at all.
I still get nerves. I get nerves all the time.
You told me you only get nerves in the first game. Like,
okay, it's first game, but like,
but then it's like everyone has played everyone like 20 plus
yeah,
times.
but like I get really, really bad stress tolerance now. I think it's because of work, because like I start like puking before games now. It's really bad. I have to like sit
I was going to say that some level of nervousness is good, but that level of nervousness...
No, like I have to like sit there and stop myself from like puking all over my keyboard when I'm playing like the first
Does anybody
round.
take a nervous poo? Be honest.
Dude, shit
It's a
before
phenomenon.
playing. It's a good thing. You know,
And everyone does any
every
competitive
time.
activity. Everyone goes for a shit. I don't know what it is.
Gotta let
Before you
out some
do anything
steam.
big, you gotta be the optimal weight for fighting, right? You gotta get rid of that like 300 grams of shit. Big shout out to Von Ivan, by the way. That's in Russia and in chat. So it'd be great to have him on the podcast.
Have we actually confirmed if this is the real Von Ivan? I am very suspicious if that's actually the real Von Ivan, to be honest.
It is. He's not allowed to use his Twitch from within Russia because.
Have you confirmed it? Like 100%.
Somebody post a face picture. I'll prove it instantly.
Yeah, please do.
A timestamp.
We would like to confirm it, because I'm actually not entirely convinced, because I have never seen Von Ivan this active in Twitch chat as this guy has been in the past 2 weeks.
I think it's him. I think it's him because he sniped me. Yeah, he sniped me when I did the stream. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he sniped you and he had terrible lag.
Yeah. He was playing on a laptop.
Every half a minute.
Okay,
It's terrible.
What happened then? Why are you in Twitch so often, dude?
In Russia, man. He's probably on like a vacation, super bored.
Oh yeah,
true. For very obvious
I would
reasons,
do the same.
Von Ivan. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Von Ivan has a very real reason to. I think Von Ivan is one of the nicest guys in the community, and he has a very real reason to dislike D3vM for what D3vM did to him with his Smurf on a laptop once. In the build-up to GCS2, D3vM sniped Von Ivan to the point where he worked out his strategies and how to counter it. And then as soon as he did, he stopped playing against him until he fought him in a tournament. And Von Ivan, was playing D3vM on a laptop. And I know both of those guys were thinking, yeah, just like that time you had your laptop and you were playing me as Maxi. That was the unspoken drama, going between those two guys at that time. But that was a particular. I could talk about tournament drama for a really long time. I'd love it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of fun to listen to. It's so much. It's very intriguing, I think. Especially when there's names that are still active today. You know, it's fun hearing the backstories that you weren't there yourself to see, or you've just not heard of.
One thing that's really interesting for me, right? It's like in CoH2. I wonder how many of those guys are gonna come back, right? Because I never got to play those guys, back then, because I was awful at the game. But I would really like a good chance in CoH2 to just play all these guys and just
the big famous names when you were first watching. You mean
did you get Captain S prize?
Just that I not beaten once in auto match, and that was the only time I played him. But I'm thinking some of the old CoH1 guys, for example, right? And some of the people like Proddy and Barton are basically gone, right? And Bebop, all those guys. I would really like a good
is going to be one to watch because he's really anticipating CoH3. He wants to make his mark on the competitive scene and all this. So that's just the only good CoH1 player.
Wait, I didn't hear your name.
Who are you talking to or about?
Complexity.
Complexity. Okay.
No,
I
said BK Montest. It was a joke for them,
okay.
BK Montest.
BK Mod is really
I was like, no, this can't be right. BK is really good in Company of Heroes 1, so it's going to be fun to see that.
I mean, he's hyped for it, so it's just going to be really fun to try all those guys and just see, how it goes.
All right.
What one series you guys would all like to play that would be your biggest score to settle? Who's your opponent you would pick to be your best of 5? Oof. You asked Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury in boxing, who do they want to fight to generate the most money in a big showdown? It's each other. Who's your nemesis out there?
Oh, easy one. Love Nest.
4 each in tournament matches. That would be a big one.
I just want to be able to beat Orangepest consistently. If I do, I'm happy.
Not ever gonna happen. I'm sorry.
Perhaps, maybe.
Let's
one
pick
day.
a date. Let's pick a date and have training time. I'll do it. I'll raise some money. Come on.
We play quite often already.
But 100% win ratio in tournaments against them.
I'll put $100 up of the remaining Master League funds if you guys pick a date in the next 6 weeks, 2 months maybe, and train for it. We'll pick the maps in advance. We'll have faction rotation.
If you
what do you mean train for it? What do you mean train for it? Are we just playing an
elpern?
day?
So you've got no excuses. So you've got time to practice against one opponent, and it's optimum elpern versus optimum Orangepest.
We've done this one in the past, and he won but it
I
was
basically stumped you.
Dude, you didn't stomp me, dude. The
Yeah,
mines,
that's
the mines.
Dude,
You dodged them.
you got stumped. Sorry,
The mines,
but
dude.
you can blame it on the mines, but it's just
Did he
poor
not
mine
plant the
placement.
mines? Were they already there, Elpern?
I had like 8 mines down, and the bastard drew through them all without hitting a single one. And I got, I remember afterwards.
Triple P4J. Oh, that's so fucking funny. I just right clicked into his army and collapsed because I missed all the mines for like less much.
But you know, it was a good scramble, I think.
The King of Sweden showdown.
Yeah.
We already did that though. We did the King of Sweden showdown, like Egypt.
Yeah. When was that? It was like it was this year, I think, or was it last year? No, it was this year.
It was this year, I think.
I think it was like winter, yeah.
But I don't think I have an MSS. Personally.
Yes, you do.
Actually, no, I do. I have
Quirits.
No, not Quirits. It's Angreifen. Angreifen I have a score to settle with. He's still
Paula, right? Paula as well.
Paula I've already beaten. I just pick a fight with a lot of people. Quirits and maybe like Angreifen. Well, yeah, Quirits and Angreifen are probably the two guys, right? I don't like playing against Quirits. He's so boring. So I wouldn't want to play like a best of 5 against him. It's just not fun.
Quirits, for the amount of time he's played the game, Orangepest, you know.
Yeah, but it's
boring.
Could
be considered slightly better in tournaments, really. Pound for pound. It's a bit of a score to
settle there, in the latest tournament, he lost to Cobalt.
Putting in some poison.
Okay, now he's lost to Cobalt. He's no longer considered
exactly.
I rescind my decision.
If you lose to Cobalt, I'm sorry, but like, no way. I wouldn't lose to Cobalt in a tournament. Ever.
Well, these guys are getting better. What about if we did, like, instead of a GCS3 in Denmark, that's like a tournament, what if we just had show matches, live show matches, grudge matches?
Yeah, it could be fun.
That'd be badass. We could do D3vM versus Love Nest.
There's so much potential.
You gotta do CoH2 boxing. CoH2 boxing, have a boxing round, and then they go play CoH2.
Oh yeah, exactly. Can you imagine?
That would be hilarious.
Pale skin, the flab. Oh my god.
But boys, we are running out of time, I'm afraid.
Oh.
But it's been great fun having you guys here. Thank you very much for showing up. Me and Orangepest will invite you more in the future, for sure.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah. There's a lot of things to cover still about many things. Honestly,
sure. There's so much, especially
like 1 hour is not enough. I'm starting to realize, but we're working with 1 hour currently, so that's what we got to do. But any other parting words before we shut it all down?
Separate. That's a parting word. Can't think
section.
Split.
That's technically.
Yeah. Split, good one.
Decapitation kind of counts too, right?
Definitely. Comb over. That's a parting word.
Sure.
Divide, yeah.
Oh, that's a classic. Now I'm playing like one of those. Do you know those games you play with your family on long car journeys? Okay, I've ruined the ending. My parting word is goodbye, guys. Have a good start to your weekends.
You too, man. And good weekend. And I'll see you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
See you guys next weekend on this podcast. Cheers and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, he left. Wow.
Wow.
He's in a hurry.